So today we're going to do your IELTS speaking test. So the test has 3 parts. The first part is some kind of general questions. And then after that, we'll move on to the extended response question. You'll have 1 minute to prepare your answer, and you may speak for up to 2 minutes. If you start to speak for longer than that, I will stop you, okay? Then the final part are topic-based questions. All right, so then let's get into your test. All right, so did you ever go on a picnic when you were a child?
Absolutely, yes. I have been to the very famous park near my home. So I went to it's named called the Grandchildren's Park. So it's quite close to my house. It about takes 3 to 4 minutes. So we went there with my friends and even my family. So we had a picnic there, and then we have some foods there too.
That sounds lovely. Okay, and how often do you go on picnics nowadays?
Nowadays, it's really hard to go on a picnic because of a lot of jobs and then the works. But I usually go to by myself, like the once in a week. I try to, because there's a solo forest near my home. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes by subway. So yeah, whenever I have some time, less time, then I go on a picnic.
Oh, okay, great. And so you like to go to Seoul Forest, but is there anywhere else you like to go on a picnic? So where do you go on a picnic usually?
Actually, nowadays I go to the riverside, Hangang riverside. So, but it's already packed with the people because of the nice weather. But so I usually go to the riverside because it's quite close to the Seoul Forest too. So when I go to the Seoul Forest, and then move on to the riverside. And then other side, maybe the mountains. Sometimes I go on the mountains, but not that harsh one. So yeah, in that way, I go to the hike.
Okay, great. And what is the difference between a picnic and cooking at home?
Picnic and cooking at home. I always make my food by myself for a picnic. So like the kimbap or the sandwiches, but easy to have and easy to make. So I think there's no big difference for me because I always make my food for picnic.
Okay, great. So now let's move on to part 2. All right. So your question for part 2 is to describe an old friend that you got in contact with again.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's 1 minute, and now you have 2 minutes to describe an old friend that you got in contact with again.
I cannot say his name, but he has very unique personality, and he also a lot of touches on the body, even in the elbows or the arms, and then the back, and then even in the legs. And he has the reason I say he's very unique personality is based on his the way of living, I guess. He actually studied the political studies, sciences, but now he is studying the aesthetics, and he has very strong sense of fashion. So he really likes the fashions, and then he pursued some kind of the image of the street fashion. So he always buys so many things from the clothes, for clothes. And we actually first met in the university. Actually, we went to the different university, but we have the friends in between. So he introduced him to me. So we met it's about 10 years ago. Then, so now we are in the same school, but I'm this graduate school student, and he's working in a campus. So we can meet whenever we want to meet, and then we can have just lunchtime together, and then we can have some grabbing a coffee together. So it is very easy to have same time, and even we went to the Sinchon and Itaewon because it was his birthday last week. So I'm very comfortable with him when I am with him. So yeah, that is him.
Okay, great. Sounds like a really good friend.
Yes.
And it's nice that you can see each other very often. Okay, great. So moving on, what is the influence of social media on friendship?
Definitely, I think the social media is really important for making a relationship with other people. But I think, but some of my friends has no accounts on the social media. He, he or she doesn't have any account like the Instagram, the Facebook. But we are still getting in touch with them. So social media is really important, but we can have another methods to contact with. So the social media is really important, but I think it's quite close to the influence stuff. Like the social media have the kind of the business. So the friendship, I think the social media doesn't have that kind of the impact on the friendship.
Okay, I see. Why do people lose contact with their friends after graduation?
I have kind of the belief that people usually under the different circumstance made the different choices. So after graduation, I went to the A company and then my friend might go to the B company, then we can not share the same things anymore. Like before that, we have the same thing in the university or the colleges or the high school. So we can share the everything. But now we have the different time in the different places. So we cannot make the same things in life together. So in that way, we slowly separated, and then I do not have so many things share with them. So it's naturally we are separating.
I see. Do people in your country like to make new friends?
I think it's depending on the situation. I don't want to refer the MBTI here, but we have the common sense about the MBTI, like the I person or the E person in that way. I think it's same to the other countries. When I'm introverted personality, then I do not want to make the new relationship, but I want to make the in-depth relationship with the one person. But someone maybe want to have the many of relationship with other people.
Okay, great. And now onto your last question. So, do you think old friends are more important to the old generation or the young generation?
I think there's kind of the one things, but it is I guess it can admit the without thinking of the generation, we can share the same things like that. So old generation, young generation, but we have kind of the general manner and the general etiquette about that. So old friends, I think it doesn't matter anymore. Like the old generation and the young generations, without thinking of the generation, we can share the everything, and then we can share the experiences.
Okay, great. All right, so that is everything for your speaking test. Now let's get into the feedback section. So, what you did really well was you were speaking very enthusiastically and you spoke at a decent length, I will say, for all of your answers. Part 2, you spoke very well, like you had a good amount of content in there. For some of the part 1 and 3 questions, I felt that you could have added a little bit more detail, but of course it's always difficult when you're on the spot, right? Okay. I think that you also used a couple of idioms or expressions quite well. Like you said, it was like packed with people, with regards to the Han River Park. You talked about like different circumstances. You said your friend studied aesthetics, which is like a bit more specific vocabulary. So that was really nice. However, on the other hand, sometimes I felt that you were hesitating like quite a bit. Again, it's hard when you're on the spot, but one of the markers we look for in the IELTS test is hesitation, okay? There were also some kind of systemic errors, mainly with the articles. I know articles is always really hard for everybody, right? And for example, you said your friend really likes the fashion, but it should be my friend really likes fashion because it's a general concept. And also, you said a few times like share the everythings, but we should say share everything. So no the and no s. Also, there were a couple of I don't want to say inappropriate, but more like not like 100% correct word choices here and there sprinkled throughout. So for example, the one that I noted was the common sense of MBTI. But when we talk about like common sense, it's more like, oh, you don't put your hand in hot water kind of thing, right? I think what you meant was like common interest in MBTI or common knowledge of MBTI, okay? But I think overall you did quite well. I think there are some bits you can work on, mainly with grammatical and lexical resources. Also working on the hesitation a bit. So for those reasons, I would give you band 7 on the IELTS speaking test.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.